All right. Hello, welcome to my religious life video blog, and it's gonna be the 18th Sunday after Pentecost, and and this is from Matthew chapter 21, verses 33 to 46. It says, "Listen to." It's called a parable of the wicked tenants. You know what I'm talking about. Because listen to this parable, but who knows about the tenants about this one? Here's your worst nightmare, because you had to listen to it. You know what I'm talking about. Oh boy, I was supposed to. Anyways, Matthew chapter 21 verses 33 to 46 says, "Listen to another parable. A parable. There was a landowner who planted a vineyard, put a fence around it, dug it a wine press in it, and built a watchtower. Then he releases it. Then he leased it to tenants, and went to another country. When the harvest time had come, he sent his slaves to the tenants to collect his produce. But the tenants seized his slaves and beat one, killed another, and stoned another. Again, he sent other slaves, more than the first, and they treated them in the same way." And that's why on verse 37 says, "Finally, he sent his son to them, saying, 'They will respect my son.' But when the tenants saw the son, they said to themselves, 'This is the heir, not the heir, the heir. Come, let us kill him and get his inheritance.' So they seized him and threw him out of the vineyard and killed him." Now, on verse 40, it says that, let's see. "Now, when the owner of the vineyard comes, what will he do to those tenants?" They said to him, "He will put those wretches to a miserable death, and lease the vineyard to other tenants who will give him the produce at the harvest time." So on so this is why on verse 42 says that Jesus says to them, "Have you never read the scriptures? The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. This was the Lord's doing, and it is amazing in our eyes. Therefore, I tell you, the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to a people that produces the fruits of the kingdom. The one who falls on this stone will be broken to pieces, and it will crush anyone on whom it falls." Now, when the chief priest and the Pharisees heard his parables, they realized that he was speaking about the crowds, and they want to arrest him. But they feared the crowds because they regarded him as a prophet. Here's the thing you ought to know by now about the Pharisees. Pharisees about this one, because this is what happens to out to get Jesus, because that's why Jesus tried to confront this in this whole parable. Because everything else can be civilized about this one. Civilized with this one, so who knows? Knows about this one, because the mere birth of Jesus has been threatened that King Herod so much that he ordered a bloody slaughter of boy babies. Oh, hello! The pattern of opposition continues. Early on, Jesus openly predicts his own death. But in Matthew chapter 19 says that Matthew try to explain some of the escalating tensions between Jesus and the groups try to resist him, and the enemies follow him from town to town and setting traps, and even so that Jesus neither tempting to his words nor the crowds nor trying to hide. And instead, you guessed it, everybody knows that Jesus used the occasions of conflict to warn his disciples and the watching crowds against those enemies, and who fury only increase this. Hello, here's this. Increase this. So, I have no objection whatsoever. So what did they do about this one? Because when did Jesus against the Pharisees? Students of history have often puzzled why Jesus lashed out so strongly at one Jewish section. You know what that means, the Pharisees. And this is why a group of the New Testament mentions 100 times. So this is what happens. So who else can be civilized about this, about attendance? Because immediately that's what they said about the wicked tenants. And you know what? It takes place inside this workplace, which is called the vineyard. And however, Jesus tries to make it clear that he is not talking about running a vineyard, but about his own reaction and becoming a murderer at the instigation of the Jewish religious authorities of his day. So this is what happens. You don't try this at home or wherever it is the Pharisees does this one. Well, guess what? Here's the thing. So, are there Pharisees now? Why ask? Because the key to applying it to today's workplace on verse 43 says the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to a people that produces the fruits of the kingdom. And we all have been given responsibilities in our work. If we refuse to do them in obedience to God, well, guess what? We are working at odds with God's kingdom. And every job, ultimate performance appraisal comes from God. So that's why he enters into the last weeks of his life on earth. And Jesus started polarizing the people. And he boldly contrasted his own teaching with that of his own opponents. In addition, and he warned his followers about what to expect after the death of opposition from enemies like the Pharisees wouldn't fade away. And when he departed, guess what? It will be it will be a crescendo until the day of judgment. And that's why Jesus tried to single out the Pharisees. For example, here's an example about this one. Legalism is carried to extreme, but he wasn't talking merely. Because everybody knows the persistent tendencies of human beings then and now. That was then, this is now. And the errors try to mention of the characterization of the church throughout history. And you know why? Because Christians still battles against pride and intolerance and religious based on deeds. And so, my friends,
How are you?
pretty good. And so my friends, the moral of my religious life video blog story says, ask this question: Jesus describes characteristics of Pharisees in the first century. But what about our own time? And what Pharisees? The Pharisees in this 18th Sunday of Pentecost would be like qualities. Try to exist in your church. Should be in you, in everybody else. Because as I said, when the chief priest and the Pharisees heard this parable, they had to realize that he was about to speak about them, and they wanted to arrest him. And that's why they feared the crowds of Matthew chapter 21, verses 33 to 41 in this 18th Sunday of Pentecost. And that's my religious life video blog story, and I'm sticking to it.